Hi guys, FrostFangs here, back again, of course, with another Paladins video. I'll be playing some Talus today, giving you a look at my updated builds for him and talking a bit about the spot he's in as probably the rarest and most underplayed Paladins champion, because honestly, I barely ever see him, and this ties into what I sort of talked about in the last video with what I think is going to happen with Caspian, because the way he is at the moment is pretty much just going to be removed, nerfed into the ground, and that's sort of what happened to Talus a couple patches ago, quite a while ago at this point. Inner strength was nerfed, and instead of being a full reset is now down to 6 seconds, which can feel kind of rough and was the favourite way for me to play him, and I know a lot of other people, and now this just doesn't really see any play because you can't do the combo. It definitely isn't a one-to-one with Caspian because he has Faustian Bargain. Caspian doesn't really have an alternative. This was already popular before they nerfed this. This nerf never really made that much sense to me because this was sort of combo Talus. This is consistent sort of speed buff. I don't really know how to call this, movement-based Talus, and then nothing personal barely even exists. I have updated the builds for him though. They're very similar. This speed one's nearly the same, and the center one has just been moved around with the lifesteal added in. So just to summarize here, because I feel like this has been a bit of a messy intro, we'll jump into some games I'm already queuing. Talus is currently the most underplayed or rarest character alongside a few others in my opinion, and he is in a spot that is better than where Caspian will be if those changes go through. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get across here, is that Talus is a very rare, very underplayed character, not really utilized that often. When I do see him played, it's not usually by people who are really good with him because he doesn't fill a specific niche, and I'll get into that over the course of this video, because obviously this video isn't about Caspian. I've talked about that a lot in the other two, but there's a lot of similarities between Talus and Caspian, and that worries me a little bit. So hopefully you get what I mean through this sort of messy intro. Straight into game one. Onslaught, Foreman's Rise, Generals, Barak, Betty, and Caspian. We're up against Io, Amani, Betty again, Moji, and Fernando. I see Betty a ton at the moment because of how good she is after they buffed her, and I sort of talked about that at the time. Betty's buffs may be unnecessary just because it felt like people were catching on, and then they buffed her and it sort of sent her into hyperdrive, and I sort of talked about that a little bit with the Cassie change that's probably going to be going through. If you haven't seen the video right before this one that's up on the channel talking about the update PTS mid-emergence thing, definitely go watch that one just for context for this video if you haven't seen it, but if you're at this point in, you probably have. Shoutouts there to the Betty. We'll drop a U-Rock there in the chat. We'll go for Kronos, although we don't really need that because I'm going for Faustian. Don't really need anti-CC, so I'm just going to go for double nimble. We've got Power Cosmium, Fiery, Measured Cadence, Tinkering. I'm going to throw that down there. I got hit for like a K there. Aegis, Fiery, Boom Boom, Lifelink, and Splitting Ice. Do we go down the bottom? I need to remember that I actually don't need to teleport because we're playing with its talent. It's definitely the one I'm not used to. Obviously very used to just playing with the one that gives you reset. It was my favorite way to play Talus, sort of, you know, getting the combo with the Q, the right click, and then teleporting and getting the same thing again. Feels like I'm ice skating right now though, with the insane amounts of speed you have if you're running this setup. It feels very, very hectic. That's kind of the whole point to this video, is that Talus is very playable, and for whatever reason, no one picks him up. This is coming from me, someone who likes Talus a lot. There isn't really a specific team comp or map or anything where I specifically think of grabbing Talus, and he's just a character in Paladins. He is pretty unique. I like his kit, which is why I play him. The reset one was my favourite. Now it's just left with Faustian because the reset one just doesn't feel right after they nerfed it, and it's just not as good. It seems like a lot of people did prefer that one over Faustian. Faustian is sort of more specific than just the general reset, which is the one I think works in more situations than this one. This one also sort of requires you to play a little bit better, so in the lower ranked stuff, Faustian's not going to work as well. As you can sort of see, when we have Faustian up, you are just zooming around, or the F up, not Faustian obviously. We'll throw the F down again. There's a punch for the IO, blink. I don't know what just happened. I think I just bugged it somehow. I think I blinked in the elevator. Jump down here, get shots on the Amani. His damage output definitely isn't the best ever. I will say that much. That's one thing that I think could make more people pick Talus up, is that he feels like you're sort of a mosquito character. You're hitting like a little bit of damage a lot of the time. That is kind of the point because it's an SMG, but it just doesn't feel as impactful as if you're playing somebody like Betty, where you're hitting with like a third of their health. Every shot will teleport back. We have a pretty hefty cooldown on it too. There goes the Amani. We're going to blink back. That was actually a pretty solid play. I feel like if they buffed the F and move the cooldown down to 10 without you having to get the card, or maybe they change the card, they just make the F 10 seconds, that would give Talus more of a unique identity, a sort of the teleport character. But when Talus is overly good and played too much, I could definitely see him being like a really annoying character for a lot of the player base. So I don't really know how the hell you'd balance him, because people who are good with Talus, similar to a few other characters, are just going to make him like insanely annoying to go against. I don't really go against good Talus or Talusi, whatever you want to call it, all that often, so I don't really know what that experience would be like. Just kind of a guess. That's kind of the whole point of the video, is I never see Talus, so going up against a good one is even more goddamn rare, because playing against bad ones alone is just something I don't really ever see. I'm not even bothering replacing the F here as much as I should be, just because I'm playing messy. I have like 2k credits, so I could kind of do with dying. Shots on the Moji. Is she just spamming both of them? I don't really know what she's doing. It's kind of a weird play from her. She's on like 2 health. There we go. Do I ult here? Sure, let's go on the... Yeah, Betty, that's not what I wanted to do. I feel like I barely ever teleport when I've got this Falchion set up. I also die way less just because you have so much speed when you're not effing, and then when you do pop it, it's pretty much just a get out of jail free card. Shots here on the Betty. She is out eventually. It takes a little minute. Actually, kind of a good thing that we got cleared because I just have so many credits. We'll go for Full Haven and Veteran, just playing tanky Talus here. Even though I'm going for the speed setup and not the tanky one, definitely wouldn't say that his cards are a weak point because you have a good card selection. You have like more than you could actually fit in one build to the point where I run 2 versions of it, and even then there's a few that I don't include because they don't really make the cut, but you know, if the ones he had currently got cut, you would put those in. So he has enough cards. I feel like it does come down to the talents. I like the talents, they're unique, but they're just not really powerful enough to change the way you play him, and his base kit is sort of restricted, so you end up playing him sort of the same way regardless of what you're going for. Unless you went for the reset setup, you really do end up playing him the same way. It just sort of changes the tone, or I guess the focus a little bit. I feel like I'm doing a pretty rough job here with Talus. It's nice to be able to actually jump with him though. You couldn't do that before when they had mid-air inaccuracy, and it felt pretty rough on Talus actually because he had quite a bit of spread on his weapon, it felt like already. So now they buffed it, you can actually walk around, jump around, be kind of hectic with him, and because that feels like my commentary's suffering a bit, I would love to have more people play Talus. I feel like if they made the punch better and reverted the punch, because I still don't like the fact that they made it so much worse, that would be a little buff to him. But I feel like as the teleport character though, like the teleport flank where you leave a mark and then you teleport back to it, that's a thing that realistically only Talus does well, and if they push him more in that direction, that would give him a unique sort of reason for people to pick him up, and it wouldn't be too annoying, because I feel like you could sort of deal with it if you just play around where his mark is left, like an Armani Dragon. Because when you think about it, and I don't know if I've ever said this in a video before, I'd be surprised if I haven't, he's kind of a mini Armani Dragon. You're just kind of leaving a mark, running around, causing a mess, outputting damage, being sort of a little mosquito flea type character, punching, doing that if you can actually land it, because again, punch kind of sucks. The removal of mid-air inaccuracy on him is actually a pretty good change to him. It does make him feel quite a bit better, but nowhere near enough to make you pick him up if you didn't already like Talus, of course. And like with some other characters like Emoji, for example, who I've actually seemingly seen more often after they removed it, so I guess it does make a difference for some, but obviously with Talus it's a pretty small thing, but you pick up on it for sure. Really isn't like a weak character or anything. I wouldn't say that he's underpowered, he's just underplayed and not really utilized properly, but played correctly he actually is definitely strong enough to be, you know, at least a B tier character in my opinion. I could be completely wrong with that though. Those of you guys that play, you know, maybe more ranked stuff than me, let me know. There's the victory though. Good game one. I feel like in casual stuff though, he's definitely good enough to do well, but could he do it being buffed a bit? I would personally say so. It's sort of hard to argue that when I have a stat line like that, but we were beaten out in damage by their Armani and by Betty, and I was putting in quite a bit of effort there. Shouts to Punch people, of course, in that one. A good showcase actually for what Talus does well, with a lot of kills, assists, not many deaths, but still not that much damage. Alright, so for game 2, King of the Home Marauder Sport, it looks like we're meant to carry here. Feel like you can sort of do that on Talus. Gonna go for a Falchion bargain here. Again, inner strength would work fine, but this is definitely better. Went for the other version of the setup though. We've got Tinkering, Street Justice Fusillade, Deep Roots, Tinkering, Cherish, Agony, Direct Current, and Life Exchange. Seeing a lot more Tinkering on Barrack, which I'm actually kind of happy to see because it's definitely a viable option these days. There goes Ceres. We'll just get rid of the Barrack. Again, that mid-air inaccuracy removal from Talus has made such a big difference. It doesn't make up for the other nerfs to him, and he could still do it being maybe buffed a bit, but that is a nice little touch. This is definitely a bit of a free game. Actually feels like I'm dealing no damage to that king. Thought that was a perfect example of sort of what it feels like to play Talus, especially if you're missing headshots and not that accurate like I was just there. I take 10 bullets to deal like 1,000 damage to a Ying. Dragos hits her with like 1 rocket. Drop down here, seems like Barrack's just trying to do something on the point that doesn't exist anymore. We'll double punch the Torvald, pop the Q, get some shots on him. I think a lot of people don't realize with Talus is you are so much tankier below that 50% threshold that you can come back from a lot more fights than with a lot of other characters. Feels kind of silly to say that out loud because he's, I feel like, at least known a little bit as the character that can come back from being on like 30% health, even though they nerfed that setup specifically. Like the, I think damage reduction on it got nerfed. The lifesteal I think it's the same. He's still so much tankier below that threshold, especially if you're landing your shots, but the normal weapon without overcharge honestly does feel kind of rough. Overcharge feels pretty good damage output wise, but his normal weapon, when you don't have it, doesn't feel like you're doing that much. Also, the King at 7, who has pretty crazy range at the moment, it's getting nerfed in the next update, which is another thing I talked about in that video, but yeah, Talus at this range is hitting for like 30 or 40, and 7 was doing like 135, I think, or more. A lot, that's for sure. King just running in and dying. I'm pretty sure she's a bot, but even at this range, which is a range I think 7 was doing like definitely like 100 or 200 in, I'm hitting for like 50, and it feels kind of rough. He is meant to be a flanker, he shouldn't have crazy range, but what is even the point of me firing at that distance when so many other characters deal so much more? If everybody had sort of the same amount of damage, that would be fine, but it's only silly in comparison when you realize that other characters are hitting for like a lot more at that same sort of distance. I don't know really what this Barrack's doing. I think he has actually just DC'd. I don't know, I'll punch him over there. Maybe he is here, I don't know. Q, shred him. There's a lot of things they could do with Talus. I don't have anything specifically that I could think of that they could do. do, other than, you know, pushing him more in the direction of sort of the F character that can easily escape a fight if he's not like CC'd, because right now the main way to play him is Faustian Bargain. That isn't taking advantage of that, and the reset one kind of did, and also reset your kit, whereas now the F is just a thing that's giving you a speed buff and is a get out of jail free card, but only as a base kit thing. Your talent and cards aren't really changing it that much. There are the stats for the second one, 3-5 as I sort of assumed there, but hopefully this makes you want to go out and play Talus at least a little bit, maybe give him another try. They made our inaccuracy change to make a pretty big difference, but hopefully it gets pushed in an interesting direction in the future, because right now he is a bit of a rare character. I do get kind of excited when I see him, but very rarely does it happen. And yeah, surprisingly this video ended up somewhat cohesive. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, of course let me know what you want to see with the next. I'll see you guys all really, really soon, and as always, stay frosty.